Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Long Thing. My name is, of course, Ettiene. The H is silent. And who's that over there? Why, it's my good friend and co-host, Merlin. Merlin, how have you been, bro?
No, I've been good. It's been a calm week. It feels like I've talked to you in quite some time. It's just been a week, but still,
That's true. We've
gap.
been a little bit off our structure because we have videos now. We edit videos now, so come back to see some of that. But yeah, we're back at it. It has been a quiet week in our personal lives, but not in Hollywood. There's tons to talk about. I can't wait to jump into this. I'm going to start with one of the most shocking things I saw this week, and I really want to hear your thoughts about this. So, do you remember when Disney made animated movies for the whole family?
Oh, and the before times and the long ago. Hey, really, in my day. Okay, no, but yeah, no, I do.
And then after that, they started hashing in those properties to make live action remakes of everything that our childhoods loved. Do you remember how that went?
I wouldn't want to, but yes, unfortunately, I do.
Some of them, if you go back to it, it just isn't as good as it can be. Like the Beauty and the Beast one is just underwhelming. And the Lion King one is, I don't know, man, there's just something off about it. But that's neither here nor there. So in great news collaboration, Disney has announced that they're doing a live action Lilo and Stitch movie. Now, I don't know, man. It makes my knees buckle. I don't want this. Does anyone want this? Do you want this?
I'm gasping. Goodness. A Lilo and Stitch. Okay, well, I can imagine an animated, a CGI like created Stitch, and that fills me with joy. But I also realized that in my head, it's not live action as much as it's just 3D animation because they would look adorable in 3D CGI animation. No, I might be really on the fence about this one. Tell me about it. Who's directing? Who's starring?
We don't have any of that yet, but what we do have is we do have a casting. So this is official. It's been announced. Zach Galifianakis is joining the Lilo and Stitch ensemble, for which you're very correctly pointing out is not actually live action. It's more like 3D animation. But yes, I don't know, man. I have no problem with Zach Galifianakis, although I do think outside of Between Two Ferns, he's not that great. The Hangover works because it's The Hangover. It kind of exists in its own bubble. Those movies shouldn't be good. They shouldn't have made that much money, but they did, and this is the world we live in. But him, I don't know. I don't have anything against the guy. Well, obviously, I don't know him, but that's not. He's not a name that pops out to me. If I hear Lilo and Stitch live action / 3D animation. I don't know. Do you want?
We know who he's playing.
That's the thing. Who can he play? Because the other thing about a Lilo and Stitch adaptation, Stitch is a silent protagonist, which is why the animation works. Because you can animate him doing silly things, but you can't necessarily bring that scale to the real world, if that makes sense. Because Stitch is pretty out there.
Stitch can talk.
No, he can't. He says one thing.
He curses in the giant alien. He curses an alien at the start of the movie, and then he learns to say hi from Lilo, and then he wants to show that he can talk, but the like shelter lady is like, dogs can't talk, even though Stitch literally said hi to her, and then later he says, Ohana is family, and family means nobody gets left behind or forgotten. You're forgetting crucial details.
Maybe I am a little bit overly harsh on this. I just don't think their track record I don't think anyone should be super hyped. I don't know, man. I don't know if this is going to be, but I thought that was real interesting. That kind of stuck out.
Yeah, I bet it. I don't know if he could do a Stitch. Maybe not. But that might be true. And there isn't anyone else that I would have cast him for, given his complexion, to say it light.
not
very. That is a pasty shade, and I don't remember that pasty shade in Lilo and Stitch.
No, most definitely not. That's quite true. Not to get political, you know us, we hate to get political.
It doesn't become an obvious who he's supposed to play. Maybe he's one of the aliens, eh?
That's I was just about to say. Maybe he can't be the big. Maybe he's the big one. The one that's all ha 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 ha. Here's a gun. Ha ha. Great characters in Lilo and Stitch, though. Maybe I don't know. Now that we're talking about it, maybe they can really do something. They can really do something about this. Who would you want to play the big FBI guy?
But damn, the big FBI guy, Terry Crews.
Terry Crews, what a good choice. He'd definitely be able to do that.
If it's not Terry Crews, I don't know who to cast there, to be honest. I also don't know who to cast as Lilo or Nika.
I'm sure they'll find some. They'll definitely cast no names. In other news, this one you'll actually very like. So it's still award season. It's still underway. And our crowd favorite, Everything Everywhere All at Once, is making history at the Screen Actors Guild Award, which is fantastic. That movie deserves an Oscar, right? I think we can all agree.
The Oscars are corrupt if they don't give it. That's enough evidence that I need to accuse them of being corrupt if they don't give it to Everything Everywhere All at Once. Taking that entire spectacle that movie is, and the way I can talk about that movie forever. The way it just builds its tension and breaks some of the norms that we are used to about how a story should be paced and structured, and having the entire multiverse at your disposal, and then making the message about the people around you and the people you love, that is the purpose of life. Fucking brilliant, man. That movie is fucking great.
It really is. So here's the 4 awards it won at BAFTA so far. So it won Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture, which is great. Outstanding Performance by a Female Actor in a Leading Role, because definitely Michelle Yeoh deserves it. Outstanding Performance by a Male Actor in a Leading Role, completely agree with that. Outstanding Performance by a Female Actor in a Supporting Role goes to Jamie Lee Curtis, also 100% agree with that. Outstanding Performance by a Male Actor in a Supporting Role, which is a new record apparently. So it won all 4 things it was nominated for. The only thing it didn't win, in the top brackets, is Outstanding Action Performance by a Stunt Ensemble in a Motion Picture. To this, I kind of get it, because Top Gun Maverick won, and it's all practical, it's real jets, they're flying really around, and it all really looks good. So I kind of get that. But the action sequences and Everything Everywhere All at Once is also very good. Although I guess they do fit in a bit more camp scenario than they would, something that's very technical.
Yeah.
Oh, no, maybe. Let me reject that. Those fights are definitely technical. They choreographed very well. So maybe, but it wasn't nominated for that last one. So.
Yeah, see, because it's action kind of in the service of comedy. It's like a blend between those two. Where Top Gun, I'm guessing, is just action. It's just about the thrill of the thing. I'm guessing. Because
I'm also not following it very actively. We'll do something when the Oscars roll around, even if it is just judging all the harsh and bad decisions they make. Because the history of Oscar snubs goes back long and far. We can do a whole thing on that on its own. They really don't take into consideration crowd favorites. And I'm not saying Marvel movies should win Oscars. Don't get me wrong. Because I don't agree with that either. But there are movies that win that I don't think deserve it, and there are movies who have lost that definitely deserved it. Then you're trying to think of an example now.
No, I always think of examples. I hate on them until I have to prove that Lord of the Rings is a legitimate movie, and it's real good. Then I reference them. We can definitely shit on the Oscars. That sounds like a lot of fun to do down.
We'll put a bookmark of that. We'll definitely come back to it. That's a very good segue, though, to my next piece of news. I don't know how you're going to feel about this one. So the Lord of the Rings, the movie rights have been bought over by the Embracer Group, which has promised us new Lord of the Rings movies. I don't know what this means. No one knows what this means. They have only said, to clarify, this will be separate from the Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, which is an animated film to be released sometime this year, which I didn't know existed.
I also didn't know that it existed. I'll check it out, though, because Rohirrim are fun, and animated is fun, and Lord of the Rings is fun, so they got a little, the typical, what is the word I'm looking for? Triple intersection there. I might check it out. Definitely. I don't know about this new Lord of the Rings thing though. I've seen like this like rumors floating around, and Peter Jackson has given like a shoppies to them, like a blessing, gave his blessing to them and everything. Um, and it seems like they also want to create some kind of universe with it.
Yes,
Which is I don't know about that as well. But having two studios competing for the same set of stories, like the same fan base, that is interesting. That doesn't happen like a lot because we still have Rings of Power that's running over. They actually broke some records. Amazon records. So Prime broke its like release date record for Rings of Power. So even though the critique of it was kind of harsh, they still made the money. They got what they came.
They still got the
Right.
views, definitely.
And they're planning 5 seasons. So
5 seasons.
yeah,
Good
5
Lord.
seasons. 5 seasons. And then, so we're going to have that. And then new Lord of the Rings movies. And I would really only start like reacting to this properly if they tell me what they mean by Lord of the Rings. Do they mean the Lord of the Rings? Or do they mean the unfinished tale? Do they mean the Children of Huron? Or do they mean the Silmarillion? What are we talking about here?
That's an interesting question. You can't do a reboot. I don't think anyone will accept the rehashing of the original trilogy. Those movies are perfect, right?
The only thing you could do to those movies is remaster it. Exactly the way it is, but make Legolas look less stupid.
Just a little less shiny, yeah.
Yeah, right. It's what today's first on.
Definitely. I don't think you can go back. What do you want from it? Because I do agree. They're definitely going for an everybody wants an MCU nowadays. It's the most bang for your buck if you're in the movie making business. I don't think, and Lord of the Rings universe definitely allows for an interconnected set of stories, but I don't know, man. What can you do? So what do we have left? We can do Gandalf's little adventure that he does on his own in the time when Frodo still contemplates leaving the Shire, which is less in the movie, obviously, because I know the book is like 17 years or something that goes by before he actually leaves the Shire. It's not like next week. So you could, and Gandalf's away for that time, so you can do his little side adventure maybe. You can do the reign of Aragorn after Return of the King. I don't know how interesting that will be, but there was like battles in Hobbiton and stuff. I don't know much about post Return of the King, but I do know that there is some story left. You can do Tom Bombadil. They haven't touched him at all in anything as far as I know.
Yeah, at the only place we get to see him is in Battle for Middle Earth 2. He doesn't get represented anywhere else. Tom Bombadil would be interesting. Gandalf's adventures. Maybe I would keep it to the hobbits for the most part. That's how I feel about hobbits and Aragorn. Having Gandalf as a POV character really tips the power scales a little bit. But also there was entire sections of just followed Gandalf, so maybe I'm just stupid. The story, Tolkien actually did write a sequel, or started on a sequel. The New Shadow, that would have come after the Lord of the Rings, but he abandoned the project for the more prequel-y Silmarillion, which is like Genesis, but for Middle Earth. So there's a lot of stuff in the Silmarillion as well. Like there's a lot of stuff you can tap into. And if you were a Catholic, you would have had a lot of fun because there's a lot of Catholic themes there in that space. The way the world is created and everything like that is a strange fusion between Catholic and Nordic inspirations. So that's an interesting space to explore as well. They have an entire war there, all that. Besides those things, I would have really liked to show about the creations of the Rings of Power.
You mean a different one that focuses on the rings and not whatever that show is about.
And it's also a problem that if, for the most part, the books that Tolkien finished, the hobbits were the main protagonists, the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings. He loved the elves though, and a lot of his other stuff is is ballads and tragedies about the elves. Entire epics about the elven history and all their little things and alliances and um, where they came from. It's surreal because the elves were made before the first sunrise. Is one of the little facts about Middle Earth is that they lived under a starry world, and these are surreal stuff. I would like it to see it visualized properly. That would be nice, but also I'm not sure how you're gonna take that and package it to our modern audience. To a modern audience, I don't think those things have a lot of appeal like they used to. Maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong a lot.
If you disagree with Merlin, drop us a comment and let us know. As aggressive as you can, please. All caps. 5,000 exclamation marks. That's the only comments we read. Are those ones. I don't know, man. Do you think Lord of the Rings will allow for something a little bit whimsical? Do you think they'll be able to deter from the visuals? Because Rings of Power might be a little bit different, but it does stick to some of the aesthetics that Peter Jackson established in the original trilogy. It looks obviously updated and a bit more modern and a bit more expensive, but you still get the same vibe from it. So The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power all follow that same aesthetic close enough. Do you think you can do something completely different? Do you think you can do an adventure comedy with a bunch of Lord of the Rings characters, Pippin and Merry, for instance, just have them mess about with the trees or whatever? Do you think something like that will work, or do you think they'll have to stay to what's been established?
Argue that The Hobbit is what you're describing. It was supposed to be. They stuck too much to what Lord of the Rings is, and they kind of ruined The Hobbit because of it. They made it epic where it is not epic in its sense. So, The Hobbit is a children's book. It's not epic literature. And Lord of the Rings, I would say it like this. The Silmarillion is proper epic literature in a classical sense. It is heavy and it is long-winded and it's full and it explains people's place in the world and stuff like that. Then, on the other hand, you have The Hobbit, which is a children's book. Also, the first book he published in this world, and so that should arguably be the tone. It isn't, because the tone is The Lord of the Rings, which is him wanting to write a story about the ancient elves and his publisher telling him, no, we want a sequel about hobbits. So it is halfway between proper epic literature and children's fantasy. And I think by striking that balance, it actually it created what fantasy could be. It could be a mix between serious and silly things. You could take these things and put them together and have a coherent fantasy out of mixing these two elements of children's fantasy and epic literature together. I think that I just thought of that. Right now that my brain delivered that little insight to you and all the listeners on.
I completely agree with you, though. I don't think they'll be able to. Yeah, you'll definitely have to stick to what it is a little bit, but Lord of the Rings does also, because it's that nice blend. Because they have proper themes, but it's also, you get Balrogs, but you also get huge eagles, you get talking trees, and then you also have orcs, which are disgusting, and then there's also Rivendell. So you can go any which way. All of it will fit. That's true. I want a straight up action movie. Give me legions of Balrogs fighting elves or whatever. That's what I want.
Okay, so that would be more on the territory of the Silmarillion.
Yes, definitely. But isn't the Silmarillion, it's more like factuals, like excerpts. There's no real narrative.
No, thanks. Well, Tolkien couldn't help himself. So there is a structure to it. I haven't read it yet. I only, what is it, last year finished The Lord of the Rings, so I'm still pulling myself together after that. But yeah, no, as far as I understand it, the Silmarillion has a narrative. It does follow a structure. I think some of it was created after Tolkien's death by his son, because he did compile the notes and create a lot of That's why things can still be published of Tolkien, because he made a comprehensive world with a lot of story in it. And even though he didn't write everything about it, he did create a lot of notes. They worked from his notes, fill in the blanks, polish it up to make new stories. I quickly want to just ask the all-knowing. Yeah, The Fall of Gondolin was published in 2018.
Yeah, that's now.
Yes, exactly. It was edited by his son, Christopher Tolkien. And if I'm not wrong, The Fall of Gondolin was like, in his earlier notes, like this event was already like marked and important. As once again, still don't know what it's about. I might have to start reading more Tolkien if I'm going to talk so much about him. but that's what I'm saying. So in 2018, they published a Tolkien, story, a Middle-earth story. Can you imagine how interesting this entire conversation will be when Lord of the Rings enters the public domain and anyone can create a Lord of the Rings story?
Oh, I think this will be one of those things that never do. I don't know how they do it, but some things will never enter the public domain. Because shouldn't Lord of the Rings be already then, by all accounts? Because it's like 100 years old, isn't it?
No, man. It was published in the 50s.
No, that's not true. Let me just double check that.
Yeah, the Lord of the Rings. Let's see. Novels. I'm just going to ask the all-knowing again. Oh, no, not the 50s. I'm sorry. 1937 to 1949, so just before the 50s.
But so soon.
Yeah.
When is it?
I know it's still very close. Maybe I'll do some research about that. I did do some research recently. I'm very interested in Mickey Mouse and his public domain. So I recently did some research about that as well. I think they're gonna loophole it. Like, this is my prediction for Mickey Mouse. Here's a rabbit hole. I think they're gonna loophole it because the Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse is supposed to enter public domain by next year. Okay, so people, right? The first depiction of the mouse himself will enter the public domain next year. Should enter the public domain next year. But you will notice that for quite some time, they've used Steamboat Willie at the start of their movies. That little whistling Mickey Mouse with
That's true.
Yeah,
that has come to.
Yeah, so they can use him as a trademark instead of IP. They can still protect him under he doesn't represent himself as a character. He is a mascot for the company. He is a trademark. He is part of the brand. And they'll probably try and protect him from that angle. They've actually brought back some of their older characters that should be entering the public domain in the next few years, rehashing these things out of oblivion. They have no street cred at all. Bringing them into Disneyland, bringing them into toys and stuff like that to try and move these things from intellectual property that they own to trademarked property that is part of the brand instead of any one story or something like that. So we'll see what happens. I'm very interested in the mouse's public domainers, and I'll add Lord of the Rings to this list as well, who owns the rights and what is going on. So maybe by next week or the week after or somewhere in the future, making no promises.
That's a very interesting one, though. I think we should come back to it. But I think you're right. That makes sense. I don't think those lawyers, I don't think they'll allow it. Can you imagine the porn parodies, bro? They will be everywhere. If they aren't already, they probably are.
They're already. Let's be honest.
Anyway, more things entering the public domain. It's not the smoothest of segues, but here we go. We got another live action remake in the works. This one, however, this has all the thumbs up from me, bro. How to Train Your Dragon live action. Yes, please. Let's do it.
That is interesting.
Very interesting.
I'm so... that's my reaction to that. I'm saying now. Because on the one hand, yes, you could make some stunning visuals, especially out of the third movie. that has the hidden world, that would be great if you could like live action CGI that.
Very
On
expensive.
on on the other hand, how will you make these that Vikings
Hmm.
believable and lovable without their weird body shape?
That's very true. And how are you gonna make those dragons because they can't look like Game of Thrones dragons? These are like because that's the whole thing about How to Train Your Dragon. We think these things, and then it turns out no, they're just loving creatures all along. They just want to play and whatnot. But some of them look whack. Um, because Toothless himself will translate, I think, the easiest because he's all black. And yeah, he looks pretty cool and he has a sleek design. I think to live action he'll translate the best. But some of them look really whacked where they're like animated dragons very clearly. And how do you keep that aesthetic going to live action? Because you can't do proper dragon. You can't do like House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones dragons. Or maybe you could do like Dragonheart dragons maybe. But still though, how are you gonna? They're gonna have to. Lots of variation is the point here. This is gonna be expensive. The good news is though, the guy who wrote and directed the original animated trilogy is coming back to oversee the live action version, and that's always a good sign.
I'm always a fan of the original director working on a thing. I always trust it more. But once again, I'm looking at this and I'm always my reaction to making something live action but did we want it? Did we need it? Wasn't it already great? Isn't it already a great trilogy? You know?
To agree with you, all three of those movies on their own and as a collective really are something special. I remember watching the second one after a bender one night at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Crying into my scotch, it was lovely, man. Just a heartfelt, proper movie, and I honestly feel, and I know you feel the same way. Animation does allow for a little bit more hitting in the feels, where with live action you have to talk a bit more, you have to explain a bit more. It has to be very expensive.
Yeah.
I don't know. Also, are they going to do a grey world? Is it gonna be as colorful as the animated ones? Because it has to be.
If it's not as colorful as the animated, if it's not as fun as the animated, what are we doing? You're just making a subpar movie just with normal actors. And it's going to be, the humans are going to be normal actors, but the dragons are still going to be CGI. So it won't be live action dragons. Still, it will be CGI dragons. So once again, this is a situation where we're really sitting with the good thing. And for some reason, we make it worse. I don't know. There's a quote in The Good Place where the architect Michael says he loves frozen yogurt because there's something very human about taking a good thing and ruining it just a little bit so you could have more of it. And I'm thinking about that right now. Taking a good thing and ruining it a little so you can have more of it. How human.
That's very true, but I don't know. Maybe let's wait until we see a trailer. I think let's wait until
until we can see what the team. That would be great.
Because on the other hand, did you see the trailer for the Percy Jackson HBO show coming later this year?
Ooh.
Very interesting indeed. So if you look at that trailer, for instance, that's a good example of maybe because Percy Jackson, of this first one especially, it's very kid-like in its telling. There's no real danger ever. It's everyone turns to dust and it's all. But the HBO show trailer looks it's all grey. It's very serious. No one's laughing. They do stick to some of the book things more that the movies didn't. Like it is an actual summer camp this time around. They all wear their little orange training shirts, which they didn't have in the movie. And then you just see Percy. You see the back of him walking to his little cabin because he stays alone. So I think, but that's a good example of maybe that wasn't the right way. We'll obviously still have to see when it comes out, but just the trailer alone was a little bit like they always try and change the vision a little bit when adapting, I feel, especially kids' stories.
Yeah, it's part of a problem, I think. If you can't, as an adult, appreciate what a kid's story does, I think you've kind of missed the point of why we tell stories in the first place. I don't know how to like properly express it. You know, maybe you started this conversation with, you remember when Disney made movies for the entire family. That used to be true for a lot of animation and animation studios, and I can't say it's not like that anymore, because in recent years, Disney has also released some very interesting stuff that I, as an adult, enjoyed, and that I know kids enjoyed as well. So that still happens, but there is something off. If something has gone awry, and I am confused by it. And one of the things that really does hit me, I want to say in the nuts, but
I think you can. We're past the 30-second mark. We can curse all we want now.
excellent. But yeah, the thing that like gets to me is the tendency to make things that are joyous and campy and whimsical and quirky, to go and make it dark, to try and make it popular. And that idea of darkening fantasy in a Game of Thrones like fashion, I really think has to end. If we look at fantasy as a way for us to dream about how the world can be, you know, if you could think of it like that, and the only fantasy stories we tell are dark, then the only dreams we have for our future and what the world could be are dark as well. I think it's very important to have stories with happy endings, especially because life doesn't have happy endings. It's especially for that reason that we need to build stories that can give us hope, and that can guide us, that can teach us, and that can make us better. I'm not against the realities of the world, and I did enjoy Game of Thrones, especially for that reason. It was a really fresh take, you know, putting us all on edge and everything, and it does do its commentary. There's a lot of commentary in Game of Thrones, actually. Just the core of the structure of the show, you know, the story is kind of commentary on our modern world and whatever. But I think we shouldn't do that for everything automatically. You understand it?
I definitely agree with you. I also think that's why both of us have a little bit of we have a silent optimism towards the Dungeons and Dragon movie, because that's doing everything that you're saying not to do. It's not dark. It looks like it's going to be filled to the brim with hijinks and jokes, just fun, and obviously the good guys will win at the end, because Dungeons and Dragons, like you said, is a power fantasy for the players. So it definitely won't end in an Infinity War type thing where the bad guy wins. If it will make money and do well is the other thing, because it has to. Otherwise, they'll just go back to what they already know works, which is Game of Thrones, because that made all the money.
Yeah. I am excited for Dungeons and Dragons. It does look like a lot of fun. And that is a very Dungeons and Dragons thing to keep in mind. I'm really glad they didn't go for the grim dark of it, because let me tell you, grim dark does not work that often in Dungeons and Dragons. It's like you can pull the aesthetic and you can make it gross and gritty and all those things, but players are hella powerful and they will mow through most things. You'll build up this guy for weeks. You'll build up this horror for weeks, and then they'll tear through everything. It's insane. Although I must say there is it's called Grimano, specially geared to dark fantasy, because 5th edition is very versatile. So once again, I'm moving wrong, sir. I'm moving wrong. I just know my track record. I don't like grimdark around my table either. I like epic fantasy, and I do gory stuff, and I do sad stuff on my table. That is another thing. Characters can die, and things can be lost, and I can wipe out entire cultures or civilizations or whatever, depending on the particular plot or villain or whatever. And stuff like that does happen, but I also allow them to build. They can build cities, and they can save people, and they can restore what has been lost. And that I've always found, like, that heroic play is like catnip to me, man. Having that around the table and everybody can root for the main characters because they are likable and they do good things. You don't want them to. You don't want to see them fail. And I hope the movie's like that as well. But already I'm into it. I can't fuck away.
I think it will be. I think it's going to be. I think it'll do well as well. Chris Pine is a box office draw. I think he makes money. And they've gotten some good talent in that movie. Do you think it'll be long? Because those trailers make it look like that movie is going to be like 4 hours long. Which won't be the worst thing, because Dungeons & Dragons games are known for being quite long. I know it can't be less than 2 hours. It definitely can't be less than 2 hours.
Yeah, I'm guessing 2 hours at least. That's like industry standard at this point. Yeah.
That is also true. Yes, I miss 90-minute movies. Remember when we had 90-minute movies? We don't have any more 90-minute movies.
I think the original Alice in Wonderland clocks just under an hour. Like the animated thing. Yeah. That is an episode.
Yeah, that's modern TV.
Yeah.
Great. Speaking of modern TV, Apple TV is back at it again. So they've made a Tetris show, but it's not what you would think it is. So it's Taron Egerton. He's the guy who played Exy in Kingsman. He also did the Rocket Man. He played as Elton John on the Rocket Man. So they're going to do a show about how Tetris came to be a thing, and it looks really interesting. So apparently Tetris was developed by a Russian back when, there was still a Berlin Wall, obviously, because it was the 80s. And they had to smuggle him out of Russia to be able to release Tetris to the world. And this show is going to be about how they did that and why they had to do it and the politics of all of it. And that, to me, sounds interesting. I love that. The tagline is literally, it's the story you wouldn't believe based on the game we've all played. Which is, bring me, I love it. I love it when they do something different.
Okay. But I've actually, this has come up on my feed. You're not the first person to tell me this. It's about Tetris. Can you?
What a world. If this does well, we'll see origin stories for everything. There will be a Donkey Kong one, a Super Mario one. No, there will be one for whatever racer was first. Ping Pong will probably get a shot at it. Who knows?
Oh, good. It's an interesting creating a drama about Tetris. That is. The tagline is appropriate.
Because it's something, we all know what it is. Tetris has definitely surpassed what it's famous for. Like, you know what Tetris is, even if you've never played it. Which I don't think anyone, we've all played Tetris at some point.
Yeah, you've had to. Right?
Definitely.
Anyone out there that hasn't played Tetris, come forward. Yeah. Reveal yourself. You don't have to hide anymore.
No. This is the internet. Anonymity is key. Just do it.
Yeah, but we would like to know if there's someone out there who hasn't played Tetris.
Yeah, come lie to us on our comment page. We'd love to hear it. Anyway, that's me for the news. Anything stick out except for the Zach Galifianakis thing? That's me. That's definitely what I'm going to take away. I'm going to follow that story a little bit. You better believe I'll be on the first when they release the first set photos. We'll definitely come back to it. I don't think Lilo and Stitch live action can work, man. I honestly don't. Also, how much Lilo and Stitch are you incorporating here? Are we only doing the first movie? Are we doing all of the sequels plus those shows? Because I haven't seen anything of that. I've only ever seen the first movie.
I have, and they shoot it. Lilo and Stitch was great, but the rest is garbage. It's nonsense.
That's usually how it goes as well after the first, Lion King 2 and 3 is mere shadows of its former self.
Yeah, it's because it's a different studio. So Disney still owns it, but Disney feature films and Disney sequels are made by two different studios, and the sequels always get less money. So they'll try and make more money out of a franchise, but it is never as good as the first one. So Lilo and Stitch 1 counts as a feature film, but Lilo and Stitch 2 does not. Neither does, what's the rest? Leroy and Stitch, and Stitch has a movie, just Stitch, the movie. None of that counts as feature films. Which is
okay, so it was straight to DVD situations or for the Disney Channel.
Yeah, all the sequels in that vein, except the Rescuers sequel. So the Rescuers and the Rescuers Down Under. It's the only sequel that is part of the feature family of Disney movies.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
No.
Interesting little fact.
But that's me. What are you watching? What are you playing?
Oh shit! Okay, so I started talking about Hogwarts last week, the week before. We skipped a week, but I've actually started playing a bit of it, and it is, as I suspected, very good. It is, man, it's big, it's filled to the brim. It is filled with all kinds of little activities and quirky characters and magical little scenes, and you're talking to a person and they're struggling on some kind of puzzle and you haven't found that puzzle yet, and you just completed another puzzle and they haven't found that puzzle yet. It's great. It's not long. I haven't finished, and the people who are playing, I haven't gotten to my room of requirement yet. So they'll know that I'm still a noob, actually. But even at that, before that point, there's so much to get into. It's insane.
That's pretty cool. Is it everything you would want from a wizarding? You can't play Quidditch though, but yeah, I'll bet you bottom dollar right now they'll implement it at some stage.
The other things I must critique is it's triple A-ness, I guess.
Yes, lots of collecting, lots of walking.
Yeah, and things that in my mind should be hidden are marked on the map. Not everything. There are still things that are marked on the map. There's a delightful little explorative puzzle-like segment where you have to listen to little floaty, squeaky keys. And then when you find the key, it flies away and you have to follow it to a cabinet where it opens something for you. And that isn't marked on a map or anything. You have to literally see or hear these keys to like follow them and do your thing. It's absolutely delightful. But then a lot of the other things, they're like, oh, it's over here. Here's a quest. Here's an NPC. Here's a chest. Here's a puzzle. Here's your main quest. Your main quest is here. And then it's on your mini map. It's in your left hand in the HUD. It says, this is your next objective. And then there's a button combination you can tap, and it even gives you like a highlighted light that leads you directly to the next part. And
That's cheating.
That like 1, 2, 3 like that really feels as if they don't want you to spend any proper time in the world.
Mm-hmm. They want you to see what they've built and where all the money went. And
yeah, like I don't know. They don't want you to be bored for a second, I guess, is what it's about. I have purposefully been ignoring the shit out of everything they want me to do, and instead been doing everything else. Everything from helping a little girl find her golf balls, I think it is, diving a relic out of a lake. I've fought some goblins. I've fought some spiders. I've sneaked into the restricted section. Man, it's flipping great. The amount of like little tidbitty things you can do. So I fucking love it.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think Hogwarts Legacy maybe makes a door open for a larger multiplayer-based game set in the same sort of way? And then sub-question, is that something you think, because I think everyone will be into that. I personally have friends who thought it was going to be co-op, so they bought 2 versions. So they bought 2 copies of the game, and it's not co-op. But do you think that's the next step? Do you think implementing some multiplayer aspects into this could work?
I think what Hogwarts would be really good for is a metaverse. Yeah, because it's an expansive world. It really is. I don't know how they would like implement it. Luckily, I'm not in charge of either Hogwarts or metaverse. But that's what I'm thinking. If you and a bunch of friends can like start up a server of a Hogwarts, like you did a Minecraft app as well. Like I don't know how
or an Ark or whatever.
Yeah. And you guys can like go in and out, and there's like a proper time running over it, and you have to get to certain classes and stuff like. a little life simulator metaverse kind of vibe, but it is in Hogwarts with magic. I think that would actually be like it would fit really well for Hogwarts.
I'm just
Would I
glad
play
it's
it?
a.
I don't know.
I don't know. Me neither, bro. I don't play. I like the story games. I don't like games that don't finish. A game has to finish for me to see worth in it. That's why I don't play like Ark or Minecraft. Really, I should play a little bit more Minecraft because it's all sort of creating. But just also same reason I don't play No Man's Sky. I know it's great. It's just I can't play something that doesn't end because I like them end cutscenes, man. I like that little gold trophy at the end.
You could make the argument that Minecraft only really starts as a game after you've killed the end dragon and explored the end dimension. So only after that, see, because after that you get your elytra, which are wings. You get an ender chest, which is like a dimensional chest. It has strange like properties, and you get shulker boxes, which are chests, but you can carry them in your inventory, allowing you to carry a lot more blocks all of a sudden. So then you can fly, you can quickly traverse the landscape, explore a lot easier, build bigger things because you can carry a lot more and you can fly from the top to the bottom the whole time and stuff like that. So I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I'm working really hard and we'll get there one day. But Minecraft is an endless time sink because before I get to the end, I'm also building an ice highway through the nether that is taking up all my time and focus. So I'm not completing the game at all. I'm building an ice highway. I'm lying. I'm building I'm waiting.
Just so clear, I know Minecraft and Ark as well. Like there is a technical ending for it, but no one that loves those games play it for that. So I feel it's like it was added as an afterthought. It's not a real thing. Well, look, I talk shit about these type of games, and it is also true that I've been playing Frostpunk on a loop for like months, and that game seemingly never ends. And I've also been playing Stranded Deep, which also never ends. I don't know. There's just something cathartic about chopping wood on an island, and then you get to build a hut with it that I really like for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, you've kind of described Minecraft for me sometimes, like just chopping wood or mining some gold or some stone or some iron or whatever you need. I don't know why you need gold, but mining in general, it is cathartic. It's relaxing. But then also, I've been watching the Hermit a lot this past week as well, the Hermitcraft server, and the one guy has made a Pokemon-like trading card game in Minecraft, not like hacking or modding the game itself. He made with map art. You can make maps in Minecraft, and if you go to that location that you made a map of, and you instead do a giant pixel art in that region, your map will look like a giant pixel art instead of a river or a mountain or whatever. So he did giant pixel arts, recorded them on maps of all the hermits on the server, and he gave them Pokemon types. Each one has Pokemon types. They work with energy cards, and they can play all kinds of effect cards. He built this entire game. This entire server is going, or not the entire server, a lot of them are recording the shit out of it. But yeah, the other half, they've been building their own like arenas for this that has been automated. It can shuffle your deck for you automatically, and it dispenses a card automatically and a bunch of other stuff because you can do those kind of things in Minecraft. And that is the amazing part about Minecraft, is that you can build games within it. While you're playing that game, it's flipping amazing. I love the shit out of it. So that's the other thing I've been watching is the Hermitcraft. It's like my soap.
I get that, but I watch esports sometimes for the same reason. I just like it when those guys start yelling at each other. They're all a bunch of simps, and I love it. Well, on my side, it's mostly just been The Last of Us. We're still loving it. I thought for a second there it dipped, because I feel like they have to up the violence a little bit. But these last two episodes, episodes 7 and 6, it's really is some proper drama. And it's really done well, and you really feel for them. Like, because by now we've seen so many characters go through so many harsh things that you're kind of desensitized towards the suffering of fictional characters. But the ones in The Last of Us, they really have it rough. They really do have it rough. I think when it's done and said, we'll do a long episode dedicated to it. We'll do some video game comparisons. Because I think doing it episodically cheapens the experience of it. I'm really excited for the end. I obviously know how it ends, but how they're gonna do it. And my girlfriend, she doesn't know how it ends, so I'm really excited for her to see how it ends. Oh, that's great. You're not watching it at the moment.
No, I'm not. But you'll see. I've actually put it on the schedule, but I've seen that put it on way earlier than I should. I definitely vote we do a long thing for The Last of Us if we can fit it in this month, because we do have D&D coming up, and we've got some John Wick also coming up this month.
Don't we? I think that's definitely our movie of the year, Nate. You and I are both shivering with excitement for John Wick 4.
Yeah. But we'll keep all the talking about John Wick. We'll keep that for later.
That's yeah, come back for that if you're interested in us rambling on about how much we love John Wick, because we do. We really do love John Wick that much. Yeah, I think we should wait. Let's wait until The Last of Us is done, and we'll come back to it. But it really is great. If you're not watching it, start watching it. It's also very accessible. You don't have to have played the game to follow that story and enjoy it. It is standalone. It's very good. Pedro obviously does what he does, which is act out his soul. He's very good. And I must say the girl that plays Ellie is very, very good as well. She was good in Game of Thrones, like we all know she's good from that, but she's really good in this. She really brings over that. She's very sweet and she's jokey, but you also really, because she was born into this world. She doesn't know anything from before. She only knows this world. And despite that, she's still optimistic and she makes jokes and she's trying to, but then you see her going through these things that she goes through, and it's just, oh man, it's just heart-wrenching. Games-wise, I haven't been, except for those ones I just mentioned now. I've been playing Mafia, the definitive edition. That's pretty cool, I'm not going to lie. There are certain things in video games that just go well together. Mobsters, vampires, and werewolves for that matter. Wizards, and anything that can fly, basically. And mobsters in video games, they mix so very well, and it's really good. I didn't play it when it dropped originally, way back when. But I'm really enjoying the playthrough of it now. And then for funsies, every now and again when I edit or whatever, I'll play a little bit of the Skywalker Saga, the Lego game. I thought I would love it. I honestly thought Lego, because I love the Lego movie, I love the humor in it. And I've tried a little bit of Lego games over the years. They just never... I thought this was going to be the one. This is going to be the one that convinces me fully. But I don't know, there's just something about it that I lose interest very quickly.
Are you playing the ones that you can play two-player?
Yes. Those
they're really fun if you do it two-player. That's actually the best format for them to be in. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to lie to you. But if you have someone with you, there's someone else to laugh and make fun of it and stuff like that, and then it actually gets really fun. So
maybe that is what I'm missing, because I've only ever played them by myself, and I got to play the first 3 levels, and then I'll be like, all right, I get it. You guys made it funny or two. I had to build some things, and then I move on. This is gonna be a good year for video games as well. We're getting a Resident Evil 4 remake.
Yeah, it is a good game for video games. Already we've had Hogwarts Legacy coming out, and then later this year, Diablo 4 is also coming out. Our household is very excited about that. And then Breath of the Wild 2 is also coming out this year sometime, which is the last Breath of the Wild was really revolutionary. So interested to see what they do there. What's on your side?
Star Wars. We're getting Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which is
dope.
Fuck yeah, give me that game. Then for me, I wanted to play Atomic Heart, but after the reviews, not so much convinced. Resident Evil 4, definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, mostly Jedi Survivor for me. I think that's going to be cool. Diablo 4, obviously, I'm on that bandwagon as well. We'll all be talking and playing that game for years to come. Blizzard, despite that little mobile launch they did, in my eyes, can do no wrong. Their cinematics are the best. Mechanically, they do the most. I do, to be 100% fair, sometimes I feel Diablo can be a little bit more interactive in the combat. And I get it's all about building builds and having all your spells and stuff work together to achieve this power level and whatnot. And that is a lot of fun, don't get me wrong. But like after a while, it does feel like you're only watching your numbers go up because there's no dedicated attack or dodge or block or anything like that. But it's not, it's Diablo. It doesn't suffer for it, I think. It's definitely top of the log in what it does. Top-down RPGs. Diablo is king, for facts.
And they're going to a very creepy vibe for Diablo 4. So they're moving away from the cartoony stuff from Diablo 3. So that will be interesting, seeing that go on the next gen graphics. Would be interesting to see.
It's true, they are going a lot darker, which in games I don't feel it's the same as in movies, because I know we were just like, nothing must get darker, make everything more colorful, and now we're all praising Diablo. In games, I think if you go darker, it doesn't have the same effect.
Also, it's Diablo. It's literally hell Diablo. It's the devil. Don't give me something that's light.
Oh, we don't want him hijinxing all over the place.
Diablo 3 is fun and everything, but Diablo 2's grit really gets the idea over that the world is overrun by evil. And I think for that reason, Grimdark actually works for this. So once again, don't necessarily make it Grimdark, but if it should be Grimdark, a Game of Thrones or Diablo, then it's fine. It does the job well for that. Because it is the devil. You're gonna have to make it grimdark, and you're gonna have to make it creepy and gory and whatever. Although, I don't know who's the new primeval or whatever. This one, I don't know about the story in general. Diablo 3 had like a very predictable storyline. I didn't pay much attention to it. I was too busy smacking everyone in the face with my fists.
Yeah, which is where the fun is. I've also been saving myself on the story and stuff for Diablo 4. So don't read it in the comments for us.
Okay.
Or do. It's your will to, I guess. You the listener.
If you do spoil it fast, just put a spoiler tag on your comment.
Yo, be a gentleman or lady about it. On that note, thanks everybody for joining us. If you want to talk about any of the things we talked about here, please leave us a comment down below. Be sure to check out our links. We have some other videos. If you want to leave us recommendations, whatever you feel like. Merlin, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.